Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. Gaelle Esposito is a lobbyist with a focus on education policy. She's also a transgender woman working to persuade the GOP-controlled legislature to support her causes. She joins us now to talk about her experience being down there. Thank you very much for being here. I've been wanting to try to get you down here to talk about this because you are in such a unique position. I mean, there are a lot of gender issue bills down there. I know oppose many of these proposals that have been down here, and you take this very personally. But before we get into some of that, I do want to talk a little bit about your journey, how you got here. You know, when did you start this process? You know, how did you know that this was who you are?
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, for having me. I'm glad to finally be here. And I think I started this process January of last year, and I started it by coming out to my wife. And honestly, it had been a long time coming. I knew I had to make a change, and I knew this was something that I needed to do for a lot of reasons. It took time. And honestly, thinking about coming out was a challenge, even knowing that I had family and friends and people who would love me. My wife supports me. My parents support me, and I'm really lucky in that regard. But it can be a difficult thing to share and to do in a world like this that can be increasingly hostile, as we're seeing from policies from this legislature and so many others throughout the state.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a second, but you know, you shared some pictures with us, and we can probably maybe roll some of those at this point. Here's some pictures of you lobbying down there. There's also, you know, a few pictures you sent us of some friends, some family, in particularly your wife. I think a lot of people may be, you know, surprised to know that you are married, and you were married before you started all this. And how's the support been from the family and friends?
It's been truly amazing. You know, just back in February, I was finally able to get through the complicated and bureaucratic process of getting my name changed. So many of them came together, and I was very lucky. They threw me the most wonderful surprise party. It was, frankly, the nicest thing that anybody's ever done for me. And it was so incredible to see that love and support, you know, from them. And just always having my wife in my corner throughout this process has been
That's got to be really
incredible.
important with the support from your wife. Has got to be extremely important, particularly when you do have to go down and work in a legislature. And you know, I mean, it's not the most friendly environment for a transgender woman, is it?
No.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Every week there is at least one hearing or floor debate where I have to sit through some of the most incredibly hateful and harmful and frankly bigoted remarks that I could possibly hear. And it's incredibly challenging to have to listen to that. I think nobody wants to be disrespected. Nobody wants to hear their community disrespected. And even though it's a challenge, I think it's incredibly important for me to be there and to push back on that and to show them that, you know, we are here, we exist, we're not going anywhere, and we're going to stand up and speak out.
What's it like? Because you know, you also lobby on other issues. Like we mentioned in the beginning, you lobby on education issues. You've been involved in other issues down at the Capitol. Sometimes you got to go and talk to these people, these lawmakers who do, you know, put forward some of these bills that you are opposing with gender, with the deal with gender. What is that like, and how have you been received by them?
Yeah, I think it's hard as well, but you know, every day people go to work and have to deal with people who, you know, may hate them for who they are. You know, I'm lucky in that I'm a business owner. You know, they can't fire me. My clients support me. My coworkers support me. You know, and I try to let the issues speak for themselves. But I think a lot, you know, about these legislators. Some of them are business owners themselves. They may have employees who are trans and don't feel comfortable being able to come out. And in this state, you know, they can be fired just for doing that. There are no non-discrimination protections. And in fact, this legislature has fought against those. Even when the governor tried to do an executive order here to protect state employees on that front, they sued. So I think it's really important to be there to speak out, to show them that, hey, you know, I can be here, I can talk about housing policy, I can talk about healthcare issues, and you know, maybe we can find common ground on that, and you know, maybe it'll get you to rethink your position on these harmful bills.
You know, I think one of the things, you know, and I've spoken to you, you know, off camera about this, is it's important to show, I think, folks that, you know, you're a human being as well, and you've got a life. You know, what are those conversations like when you do talk to some of these Republicans that are proposing these bills? Have you tried to talk to them about who you are, you know, about this journey, and what do you say to them?
Yeah, so the first bill that I testified on this year was actually a Kavanaugh bill that would try to restrict what pronouns can be used in schools. And I shared my coming out journey there because, you know, there are trans people who work at the Capitol, but as far as I know, I'm the first person who, you know, had been working there for years and transitioned while continuing to work there. And so I have really attempted to share that story and be authentic and honest about it, in the hopes that, you know, it might change some minds. And there are people who, you know, treat me with respect and hear me out, and there are those who will say hateful things in the room around me, but are too cowardly to say them to my face. And, you know, I think I can tell the distinction between who deserves my time and who doesn't.
Yeah, and other bills down there, I know you talked about the pronoun bill. You've been in opposition to other bills out there. There's also, you know, another issue, the drag queen bills. And, you know, what's that like at the end of the day when you see and have to deal with some of the comments that are made about people like you?
Yeah, it's very exhausting when people want to debate your existence. And when they try to make even unrelated topics about you and your community. It is truly something that has made this one of the more difficult legislative sessions in my decade plus of working in policy. But I'm very lucky, once again, that I have a support system that helps me to be able to push back on that. And also lucky that there have been a few issues where I have been able to build broad coalitions and, you know, bring folks together to, you know, hopefully get things done or stop some bad things. But when we're talking about these anti-drag bills, when we're talking about book bans, you know, of anything that includes gender pronouns, which, spoiler alert, every book does, you know, it's just part of a nationwide effort that we see of targeting trans people, targeting LGBT people more broadly, because, you know, we're a small community and we're an easy target. And hopefully, as people become more aware, and I think we see this in polling, you know, it turns out that people don't like when their policymakers focus on hate.
Well, let's wrap up with this. I mean, for people who, you know, are watching, they may not know someone who's transgender or have much of a relationship. What do you want people to know about you, about your community? What is that?
You know, we've always been around. We work jobs and have families and have loved ones just like you. You know, in this community, I know people who are restaurant owners, musicians, award-winning photographers, nonprofit leaders, and all of them are deserving of the same love and respect that you would want.
All right, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for stopping by and sharing the story with us today. But up next, there'll be